And talking about LA, we need kindness in this world.
Oh my God.
And talking about
Billionaire in tears. Richard Branson drops $5 million to fly tennis star Alex Eala to his birthday party. Her speech left him sobbing. What's up, tennis lovers, scandal chasers, and everyone who can't get enough of the absolutely insane crossover between sports and extreme luxury? Welcome back to Champions Tennisitics, your ultimate destination for the juiciest, most explosive stories from the tennis world and beyond. If you thought you'd seen everything, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is so wild, so extravagant, and so emotionally charged that it sounds like pure fiction. But I promise you, every single word of this is real, and it's happening right now. We're talking about Sir Richard Branson. Yes, that Richard Branson. The British billionaire who built an empire with Virgin Records, Virgin Atlantic, and even Virgin Galactic. The man who literally went to space for fun. The daredevil who survived multiple hot air balloon crashes and still came back for more. The guy worth an estimated $9 billion who treats life like one giant adventure. Well, for his 76th birthday, Branson didn't just throw a party. He orchestrated what might be the most expensive and emotionally devastating celebrity appearance in tennis history. And at the center of this unbelievable story is none other than Alexandra Eala, the golden girl of Philippine tennis, the newly crowned Southeast Asian Games champion, and apparently, the only person on planet Earth who can make a hardened billionaire businessman weep like a baby in front of a room full of the world's elite. We're talking about a $5 million invitation, private jets that cost more than most people's houses, a suite at the Ritz London that redefines luxury, and a birthday speech so powerful that it brought one of the world's toughest entrepreneurs to his knees. This isn't just a tennis story anymore. This is a cultural moment. This is the collision of old money, new talent, and raw human emotion that nobody saw coming. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and prepare yourself for the most glamorous, most shocking, and most heartwarming story to hit the tennis world this year. Let's dive deep into the night a 20-year-old tennis player from Quezon City made a 76-year-old billionaire cry, and why this might just be the beginning of something absolutely massive for Asian tennis. The story begins with a number that most of us can't even comprehend. $5 million. That's not the prize money for a Grand Slam. That's not an endorsement deal. That's what Richard Branson reportedly spent just to have Alex Eala as his personal guest of honor at his 76th birthday celebration in the English countryside. Let that sink in for a moment. $5 million for a birthday guest. To put that in perspective, that's more than most WTA players make in their entire careers. That's more than the winner of the French Open takes home. That's buying a mansion in Beverly Hills money, and Branson spent it on one night with one guest. Now, before you think this was just a wild whim from a bored billionaire, understand that Richard Branson doesn't do anything without calculation. This wasn't just about throwing money around. This was about recognition, admiration, and potentially the beginning of a partnership that could reshape Alex Eala's entire career trajectory. Sources close to the Virgin Empire have revealed that Branson has been quietly obsessed with Eala's rise for years. But something about her performance at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Bangkok last month pushed him over the edge. Watching this young woman carry the weight of an entire nation's expectations, battle through suffocating heat and pressure, and emerge victorious after ending a 26-year gold medal drought apparently struck a chord deep within Branson's adventurer's heart. Here's a man who has built his entire brand on the idea of the underdog fighting impossible odds. He started Virgin Records out of a church basement. He launched an airline when everyone told him he'd fail. He's crashed, burned, and risen from the ashes more times than we can count. And in Alex Eala, he saw that same fire, that same refusal to accept limitations. So when his birthday planners asked him what he wanted for his 76th celebration, his answer was simple and direct. Give me the girl who won gold in Bangkok. She's the spirit of the future. And when Richard Branson wants something, money is absolutely no object. The extravagance began long before the actual party. This wasn't a situation where Eala just booked a regular flight to London. Are you kidding? A customized Gulfstream G650ER, one of the fastest and most luxurious private jets ever built, was chartered specifically for her journey from Manila to London. We're talking about a flying palace that can cruise at 51,000 feet, has a range of over 7,000 nautical miles, and costs around $70 million to purchase. This particular aircraft was reportedly stocked with Eala's favorite Filipino comfort foods, custom Virgin-branded tennis equipment, and a personal handwritten welcome letter from Sir Richard himself on Virgin Galactic stationery. Imagine being 20 years old, sitting in a jet that costs more than a small country's GDP, reading a personal note from a billionaire telling you how much he admires your fighting spirit. That's the kind of moment that changes a person's entire perspective on what's possible. The flight from Manila to London is brutal under normal circumstances, usually involving at least one layover and about 16 to 18 hours of travel time. But when you're reclining in a buttersoft leather seat at 45,000 feet, sipping chamomile tea and watching the clouds roll by through floor-to-ceiling windows, time becomes irrelevant. Eala traveled like heads of state travel, like the truly powerful move through the world, invisible to the chaos that regular people endure. When the Gulfstream touched down at a private airfield in Luton, a convoy of blacked-out Range Rovers was waiting on the tarmac to whisk her and her team directly into the heart of London. No customs lines, no baggage claim, no waiting. Just pure, frictionless luxury from touchdown to destination. And where does a billionaire house his most prized birthday guest? The Ritz London, obviously, but not just any room at the Ritz. Reports indicate that Eala was installed in one of the hotel's most prestigious royal suites, likely the Prince of Wales suite, a sprawling 2,000-square-foot masterpiece of Louis XVI design that overlooks Green Park and has hosted everyone from royalty to Hollywood legends. We're talking about nightly rates that can run anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 British pounds per night, and Branson reportedly booked it for an entire week. The suite features its own formal dining room that seats 10, a master bedroom with a bed so comfortable it feels like sleeping on clouds, bathrooms clad in rare Italian marble, and service so discreet and attentive that your every need is anticipated before you even realize you have it. But the VIP treatment didn't stop at accommodations. The package included a personal stylist to ensure Eala looked absolutely flawless for every appearance, a 24-hour concierge service ready to fulfill any request at any time, and exclusive access to some of London's most elite experiences that money usually can't buy. This was Branson making a statement to the world. Eala wasn't just another athlete flown in for a photo op. She was being treated like visiting royalty, like a head of state, like someone whose presence alone elevated the entire event. This was calculated respect, and everyone in Branson's circle understood exactly what it meant. Now let's talk about the main event, the night that changed everything. Richard Branson's 76th birthday party at a private, heavily guarded estate in the English countryside. The theme was reportedly tropical Wimbledon, a brilliant fusion of Branson's love for his private Caribbean island Necker and his lifelong obsession with tennis. The decorations were stunning, combining lush tropical plants with the crisp elegance of tennis whites and championship trophies. The guest list read like a who's who of global power. Tech billionaires from Silicon Valley, Hollywood A-listers whose names you'd recognize instantly, tennis legends who've shaped the sport for decades, British aristocracy and business titans whose combined net worth could fund a small nation. This wasn't just a birthday party. This was a gathering of the people who actually run the world, and into this room walked Eala. Witnesses say the atmosphere was already electric, with vintage Dom Perignon flowing freely and a live band playing a mix of classic rock and modern hits. But when Eala made her entrance, everything stopped. She arrived wearing a stunning, custom-designed evening gown that brilliantly fused traditional Filipiniana elements with cutting-edge haute couture, a sartorial statement that honored her heritage while screaming international sophistication. She didn't walk into that room looking nervous or out of place. She walked in like she owned it, like she belonged among billionaires and legends, and the confidence was absolutely magnetic. Richard Branson, who is famous for his laid-back, fun-loving demeanor and his tendency to treat everyone the same whether they're a janitor or a president, actually stopped the music when he saw her. He literally paused the entire party, bypassed several dignitaries and celebrities who were trying to get his attention, and rushed across the room to greet her personally. People who were there said they'd never seen Branson look genuinely starstruck before, but in that moment, This 76-year-old man who has literally been to space looked at this 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines with something close to awe. It was a surreal, beautiful reversal of expectations, and it set the tone for everything that followed. The evening progressed with incredible food, world-class entertainment, and the kind of networking opportunities that most people would kill for. But the moment everyone's still talking about, the moment that's currently breaking the internet and dominating conversations in both the tennis world and the business world, came during the cake-cutting ceremony. In a break from every traditional birthday protocol, Branson insisted that Eala join him in cutting the massive, tennis court-shaped birthday cake. As cameras flashed and the room full of billionaires and icons cheered, the symbolism was impossible to miss. This was the old guard of global business literally sharing the spotlight with the new energy of global sports. This was a passing of the torch, a recognition that the future belongs to people like Eala, fighters who refuse to accept the limitations the world tries to place on them. But then came the speech, and this is where everything changed. Eala was handed the microphone, and everyone expected the standard fare. A polite happy birthday, a gracious thank you for the incredible hospitality, maybe a humble acknowledgement of the honor of being there. What they got instead was something nobody in that room was prepared for, a masterclass in vulnerability, inspiration, and emotional intelligence that completely transformed the energy of the entire event. According to multiple sources who were present, Eala began by talking about the concept of dreaming big, but she didn't approach it from a place of triumph or celebration. She went the other direction. She talked about fear. She talked about the crushing weight of expectations during the SEA Games, when an entire nation was watching and waiting for her to either fulfill a 26-year dream or become another disappointment. She talked about the loneliness of the professional tennis tour, the endless travel, the injuries, the doubts that creep in at 2 a.m. in another anonymous hotel room in another city where nobody knows your name. She made herself completely vulnerable in front of a room full of the world's most powerful people, and in doing so, she created a connection that transcended wealth, age, and status. Then she pivoted, and this is where she absolutely destroyed everyone in that room. She looked directly at Richard Branson and drew a parallel between his journey and hers. She talked about how he started Virgin Records in a literal basement, how he faced failure after failure, how he survived multiple near-death experiences in hot air balloons and kept pushing forward anyway. She told him that his life story had taught her that barriers are just illusions we haven't shattered yet. And then she delivered the line that broke him. "Sir Richard, you taught the world that the sky is not the limit. For a young girl from the Philippines holding a racket and dreaming of gold, your life proved that barriers are just illusions we haven't broken yet. You didn't just build companies. You built belief." The room went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. And then, Sir Richard Branson, the man who is usually the loudest person at any party, the prankster, the daredevil, the iron-willed entrepreneur who has stared down bankruptcy and disaster more times than most people face adversity in a lifetime, was seen openly wiping tears from his eyes. This wasn't a single tear rolling down a cheek. This was genuine, uncontrolled emotion from a man who almost never shows vulnerability in public. He walked onto the stage, embraced Eala in a long hug that felt more like a father hugging a daughter than a billionaire greeting a guest, and then grabbed the microphone. His voice was shaking when he spoke. "I have spent millions on parties. I have traveled to space. I have done things most people only dream about. But hearing this young champion understand the heart of what we do, understanding that it's about belief and breaking barriers, that is the best birthday gift I have ever received in my entire life." People in that room were crying. Hardened business executives were wiping their eyes. Tennis legends were nodding in recognition. Because what Eala did in that moment was remind everyone present why they fell in love with their respective crafts in the first place. She reminded them that beneath all the money, the fame, the success, there's a human story of struggle and perseverance that connects us all. And she did it with grace, humility, and authenticity that you absolutely cannot fake. But more importantly, insiders believe Branson sees something specific in Eala that resonates with his own life philosophy. She represents a market he's passionate about, Asia, which is where Virgin has made massive investments and where he sees enormous future growth potential. But beyond business strategy, She represents a spirit he identifies with completely, the underdog who bites back, the fighter who refuses to accept no for an answer. Her gold medal victory at the SEA Games wasn't just a win. It was a statement of mental toughness. Recovering from deficits, fighting through brutal humidity, carrying the hopes of millions, and delivering when it mattered most. That's the exact virgin spirit that Branson has built his entire empire on. That's why he chose her. That's why he spent $5 million to have her at his party. Because in Eala, Richard Branson sees himself. And here's where things get really interesting. Because there's growing speculation that this $5 million birthday invitation is actually just the opening move in something much, much bigger. Industry insiders are whispering about potential sponsorship deals that could dwarf anything we've seen in women's tennis outside of the absolute top tier. Is Eala about to become the new face of Virgin Active across Southeast Asia? Is Branson planning to personally sponsor her tour in a way that completely eliminates financial pressure and allows her to focus purely on training and Grand Slam preparation? You don't spend $5 million just to have someone cut your birthday cake. You spend that kind of money to build a relationship, to lay the groundwork for a partnership that could be worth tens of millions over the next decade. And there are even wilder rumors circulating. Multiple sources claim that before the night ended, Branson made Eala an offer that could change everything. He reportedly invited her to hold her preseason training camp at Necker Island later this year, completely free of charge, with access to world-class coaches, physiotherapists, nutritionists, and training partners that most players can only dream about. Imagine training on a private Caribbean island with tennis legends, surrounded by turquoise water and perfect weather, with zero distractions and unlimited resources. If this happens, if Branson becomes a fixture in Eala's camp going forward, it fundamentally changes the trajectory of her career. It brings a level of visibility, financial backing, and strategic networking that separates the good players from the future Hall of Famers. The reaction on social media has been absolutely nuclear. In the Philippines, Eala and Richard Branson are trending at the top of every platform. Filipinos are losing their collective minds over the recognition, the respect, and the sheer magnitude of what this moment represents for their country's tennis legacy. One viral tweet that perfectly captured the sentiment read, "Eala winning gold was history. Eala making Richard Branson cry is legendary." And that really is the perfect summary. This transcends sports. This is a cultural moment that shows the world that Asian athletes, and specifically Filipino athletes, deserve to be in the same rooms, at the same tables, receiving the same respect as anyone else on the planet. The international tennis community is equally obsessed, but their questions are more strategic. What does this mean for Eala's schedule? If she's training at Necker Island, does that change her clay court preparation? Will we see Richard Branson sitting in her player box at Wimbledon this summer? Because if a $9 billion entrepreneur decides to throw his full support behind a player, it changes absolutely everything. It means access to the best of everything. It means connections to other potential sponsors who want to align with Branson's chosen athletes. It means a level of security and confidence that allows a young player to take risks, to play freely, to truly reach their potential without the constant financial stress that crushes so many talented players before they ever break through. Let me paint you the full picture of what this could mean. Right now, Eala is ranked in the low 100s on the WTA Tour. She's talented, she's proven she can win, but the jump from top 100 to top 10 is absolutely brutal. It requires not just skill, but resources. World-class coaching doesn't come cheap. Traveling with a full team of trainers and physios costs a fortune. Entering the right tournaments, getting wild cards, building relationships with tournament directors, all of this requires connections and credibility that take years to develop. Unless you have someone like Richard Branson in your corner, in which case doors don't just open, they get blown off their hinges. Suddenly you're not just another prospect. You're Richard Branson's player. You're the girl who made a billionaire cry. You're someone that tournament directors want at their events because you bring attention, you bring storylines, you bring eyeballs. And here's the twist that nobody's talking about yet. Richard Branson understands media and branding better than almost anyone alive. He built Virgin into a global empire not just through good business decisions, but through brilliant marketing and personal charisma. If he's genuinely invested in Eala's career, you can bet he's already thinking 3 moves ahead. Imagine a documentary series following Eala's journey to the top 10, produced by Virgin Media. Imagine viral marketing campaigns that tie Eala's underdog story to Virgin's brand identity of challenging the status quo. Imagine Eala becoming not just a tennis player, but a global brand ambassador for everything Virgin represents: adventure, courage, breaking barriers, and refusing to accept limitations. The potential is absolutely staggering, and based on everything we know about how Branson operates, this is exactly the kind of long-term, high-impact partnership he loves to build.
And talking about LA, we need kindness in this world.
Oh my God.
And talking about
Sobrang di ko pa mapaniwala. Maraming salamat sa suporta. Sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa